So you already know the marquee selection tool. If you select a square, you're able to Control-C, Control-V to copy, paste, V to get to the move tool, then you can move this around and it's on its own separate layer, and in order to delete that layer, all you do is move it into the trash can. That you know. Something you didn't know with the marquee tool is you can also do circles with it. So if I were to just zoom in right here, and let's say I just wanted to select one of the juggler's balls, just hitting Shift and Alt so the center point remains in the same place. Oops, I accidentally clicked it too far. I just hit Control-Z to undo that. And going to let go of the mouse, do that. Alright, this looks pretty good. However, I wanted to adjust it slightly so the selection covers the ball exactly. If I right-click, we can free transform. It's another way of getting to free transform, but you already know better ways to doing that. I don't want to do that. I want to go into transform selection. And what that allows me to do is it works like the transform tool in that if you pull out part of it, you can change what it is. Only instead of changing the image itself, it changes the what part is set as the active area, what part is going to be selected. So actually with the transform tool and with this as well, sure you can move these different points, you can move this corner. If you hold down Control, you can just move these around independently of each other, such as like that. You'll notice that the mouse is turning into something different right now. So that looks pretty good. So just to show you, I hit Enter, undo, this is what we had before, this is what we have now. If I copy this, Control-C, and paste it, Control-V, we now have a ball that'll stand up on its own, which works. I'm just going between hitting Spacebar and using the Move tool to move this around. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit and give him another one right here, duplicate this layer, put another one right here, duplicate the layer one more time, and put another one right here, and that looks pretty good. Maybe the balls on towards the bottom due to perspective would be a little bit bigger, so just Control-T for transform, not that big, something like that. I don't know, move it here. You can keep adjusting, transform it again. Generally I don't like to transform things too many times because whenever you transform something up, it loses quality. One thing I do notice on this right now, we're getting a bit of an edge right here. So going back into the marquee tool, just going to go out and make it so we no longer have that edge inside of the selection. So maybe a little bit like that, like this, like this, like this. Perfect. Invert the selection and press delete. And then we no longer have those outside edges for the most part. Let's say we feel that this is a little bit too sharp on the edges. We're looking at this and it looks like it's cut out. Something we could do, I'm just going to undo that and go back another step by going into Window History. Go down, go back another step, select Inverse. There we go. So now we've selected Inverse. Something else we can do is we can right-click inside of this and press Feather. And that just allows us to blur the edge a little bit. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to feather this by 2 pixels. I'm going to press Delete. And now you'll notice that instead of it being a straight hard edge, it's actually feathered by 2 pixels. Something you'll notice here is that was a little bit too far. So again, going to History, you go back, right-click, or here, go back one more, right-click, go to Feather, say 1 pixel, hit Delete, and that actually looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. I believe that's in the image. So now he's juggling these different balls. Bring this down here, bring this here, increase it in size a little bit, Control-T, etc., until you get what you want. So that's just a way to increase the number of balls that he's juggling, and more than anything else, showing you the marquee tool, which is the most basic of the selecting tools. Let's move on to a little bit more advanced. All right, going to get out of this. No, I don't want to save, and open up a duck image. Alright, so in order to select out all of the white parts of this duck image, we're going to use the Magic Wand tool, which I've already introduced you to. So just going to click inside of here, and that will allow us to delete out the area that we don't want. So just going to press Delete, and you'll notice that there's a problem. Instead of deleting the area that we wanted, it turned it red. And this is a problem you might run into. The reason for that is when you first open up an image in Photoshop, when it's coming from a camera, when it's coming from a scanner, when it's coming from the internet many times, it'll open up as background with a lock. And what background with a lock means is, hey, I hate you. That's like the equivalent in English. In order to make it so it's not background with a lock, and this is just for background with a lock instances, double click, press OK. Don't worry about any of those options, just to undo. All you need to do is double click, press OK, not worrying about these options, and now instead of getting red, which is the background color, which is why it filled it with that, when you press delete, you'll get these boxes, which just means nothing's there. So I'm going to press delete, and now if I were to create a, well, let's say open up a new document, such as this, this water tower document, if we brought the duck in, we wouldn't get any of the white edges. We just have it come in as a duck. So instead of it coming in like, and I'm sure this is all obvious at this point, instead of it coming in like this, because we deleted the white part using the selection tool, it comes in like this. All right, now fact is, it is, just close this out, fact is, it is very rare for you to use a selection tool or to have an image that has a completely white area. So it's rare to use the selection tool right out of the box. Let's say you have an image such as this water tower one, and you want to get rid of the sky. Maybe make it so the water tower is at sunset or something of the sort. If you were to use the wand tool, the magic wand tool, and click somewhere in it, it's all right, but you're not getting all of these areas inside of it. And in order to get the areas inside of it, we need to go into some of the options. You'll notice that up here there are 3 different checkboxes. Sample all layers means that it samples all layers as opposed to the one that we're working on. And I'll show you an example of what that means next. But one checkbox I want to worry about right now is contiguous, which means, is it touching? So, if we uncheck contiguous, it'll select everything of this color, rather than just the is it touching. So you'll notice that it filled in all of these areas down here. If we were to delete this now, it would delete everything that we don't want. However, unfortunately, it also deleted some areas inside of here that we want to keep. So I'm just going to undo, and in fact, I'm going to use the history menu. A lot of times you'll just keep this window open, but for the sake of clarity here, I'm just keeping it closed. Alright, so in order to make it so you clean up the selection, you can select in here, you'll select everything, and then you can work with these different selection tools together with each other. And that's where it really becomes powerful. So, I could go to the marquee tool, and hitting Alt, so it goes on subtraction, you'll see the little minus sign right there. I can take this away from the selection. So I can just get rid of all of these areas here. Just by combining the wand tool with the marquee tool, it becomes a lot more useful and a lot more powerful. Another thing that you might want to try is, well, you know what? This worked. I'm not going to tell you other things to try because, frankly, it worked, and that's good. All right, Shift to add to the selection, and now when I press delete, I get rid of exactly what I want to get rid of. So now, if I wanted to, say, bring in a background of a sunset, I could do that just by bringing it in here, moving it around so it matches. See, here we go. This is taking too long. I'm going to delete this layer. If you're dragging from one image to another that are roughly the same size and you hold down Shift, it'll make it snap to exactly the frame, as we see right there. There, that was so much faster. Right now it's covering up the water tower, so I'm going to put this behind. Now you can see that it's on a sunset. One thing I'm noticing, it doesn't look that great because if things are on sunsets, well, they'd be in silhouette. That's how sunsets work. So I'm going to make this in silhouette. Just going to quickly do this. I'm going to talk more about color correction later. But for now, just make you aware that color correction is possible, and it's very much a large part of Photoshop. Whenever you're combining 2 images, it's something that's good to know it's around. So just going to go up, bring down the lightness, and don't worry too much about this step as I will be talking about it later. And there. That looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. Alright, so that was just using the wand tool in conjunction with the marquee tool, changing the layers around and doing a little bit of color correction up here, but again, don't worry about this last step. Let's get out of this. Alright, however, just as the duck was a simple example with far too easy of a background to select out, I also feel like that sky was a little bit too easy to select out. So let's here. Let me get rid of this. Don't worry about what I'm doing right here. Delete. Yeah. All right. Let's start fresh. Here. This is good. All right. So let's say you have an example such as this. How would you select the statue out of this image? If you try to use the wand tool, you get decent results. Well, actually, right here we got very poor results because we're on the wrong layer. You'll notice that this layer is selected. If we go to the right layer and then try this again, you can get decent results, but not good enough results to use. In order to get good enough results to use, I need to introduce you to a couple of more tools, the lasso tool, the magnetic lasso tool, and other such things, and I'll be doing that in the next lesson.